I'm Tim Bohmbach. I've been with the Red Wing Police Department now for 22 years, 27 days, and a few hours.
But who's counting?
But who's counting, yeah. I'd tell you how many days I got till retirement, but I'm not sure what that is yet. I've been doing crime prevention now for about 19 years. So in various forms. And that's pretty much what besides animal control and parking and code enforcement, that's pretty much all I do now is crime prevention. So, got a presentation today about business security, some of the things that we see. We'll get started here. We're going to be talking about employee theft and shoplifting. How they compare, what you can do to prevent it, credit card and debit card fraud, cash handling. I'm gonna do a little demonstration on a quick change scam. I'm gonna do a slow change scam though. So we're gonna go through the procedure for that and how that's done. Suspicious persons and actions, what you can do, what you can watch for, what you can do if you've got that issue going on. Robbery procedures. Luckily, we don't have a whole lot of robberies, but we want you to know what to do in case that ever should happen. Little bit on alarms and surveillance. I don't get too involved in alarms and surveillance systems personally. They can be a good deterrent. They absolutely come in handy after the fact if you've had something go on. If you've got that data saved, but the technology behind it I'm not real well versed in. I would, if you're considering that, I'd ask you to contact a professional with that. And then we're going to talk a little bit about current trends that we're seeing in Red Wing. Employee theft has been reported by 75% of employees. 75% of employees say that they have been involved in employee theft or taking something from their employer. Now this can range anything from grabbing a sandwich that they didn't pay for, or to actual stealing merchandise and walking out of the store with it. 35% of the people said that they've done it more than once. So. And it counts for 35% of shrinkage. So, and it's not always done by the employee directly. A lot of times they will have a friend come in and shop, and they'll come to their register and they'll either not scan it or they'll scan something different, issue a gift card or things like that, and then they split the proceeds later on. Shoplifting, actually the employee theft has actually gone down than what in the past about 4 years. Shoplifting counts for 39% of shrinkage. Only 3% of shoplifters are professionals. Most of the time it's somebody who just sees something. A lot of times they have the money to buy it. They just don't want to pay for it, and they'll take it. It's amazing how many times we will come to a place and come to a business after the shoplifter has been caught, and then they want to pay for it at that point. And they've got the money, just don't want to pay for it. And they're only caught in 1 out of 48 instances. So for every time you catch a shoplifter, you've probably almost 50 times you've had somebody else lift merchandise out of your business. And it counts for $10 to $13 billion per year in losses in the United States. It's a lot of money, a lot of money. Some things you can do to prevent employee theft. Screen your hires. A lot of times we'll take, somebody in as an employee and not do any screening on them. The biggest indicator of of behavior in the future is their past behavior. So have they been fired from another business for shoplifting? You probably don't want them in your shop. So, check with the previous employers and check the references. I've provided references to a lot of people to get jobs, and very rarely do I get a phone call from somebody asking about that person. It's like filling out that reference thing is just a formality. Nobody really follows up on it. So, watch your cash registers for odd changes, a large amount of voids, returns, shortages, things like that. A lot of odd transactions, more than what's normal. Those might be an indication that your employee is stealing. Change in worker initiative. Maybe they start out and they're not really the go-getter, really enthusiastic about their job, but then further on down the road, all of a sudden they want to be the one that takes the garbage out at night. Or they're the one that wants to work in the back room, clean it up in the back room, or things like that, giving them an opportunity to be alone where they can conceal merchandise or remove it from the area. And watch out for family and friends. Specifically, maybe you've got a customer that will only go to a certain cashier. That may be an indication that even if there's other registers that are open, they won't want to go there. That may be an indication that they're working together and maybe stealing merchandise. The best way to prevent shoplifting is to be really good at customer service. Greet the customers when they walk in, let them know that you know that they're there, keep an eye on, just doing things that are helpful. Can I help you find something? It's like we help you look for your size, things like that. Being good at customer service is the biggest thing that you can do to prevent shoplifting. Some things to look for, clothing appropriate for the weather. If somebody's wearing a long coat in the middle of summer and it's not raining out, you might want to keep an eye on them. Backpacks. Every kid has a backpack these days. Have them leave the backpacks in the front of the store, at the counter, or something like that. Strollers. Strollers are a great way for somebody to steal merchandise. They can put merchandise in diaper bags and underneath the strollers, things like that. Groups of people causing distractions. A lot of times you'll get 3 or 4 people that'll come in. One will distract ask questions about the employee or of the employee, while the other 2 are out taking items off the shelves. So keep an eye on that. If that happens, they come in together and split up, and one of them is engaging one of the employees, that might be something that you want to keep an eye on. Like I said, the biggest way to prevent it is great customer service. Watch your dressing rooms, your changing rooms, and restrooms. That's where most of the merchandise is changed out or hidden. Keep an eye on that. Go through your, if you've got a dressing room, go through there occasionally during the day looking for tags that have been removed. Maybe some of the anti-theft detection devices that have been left in there. Lock up employee areas. A lot of you have a back office or a back room where you put your purses during the day, or maybe your phones, you put them in these back rooms. Most of the time they're not locked. We have had a number of people who have gone into these back employee areas and steal wallets out of purses, steal cell phones, steal whatever's in there. And then if they get caught, they'll just say, oh, I was just looking for a bathroom, or something like that. So keep an eye on those areas and lock them up. If you encounter a shoplifter, you've identified somebody has stolen items, even if you've observed them starting to take items and you're getting suspicious, it's not a bad idea to call the police. If it's somebody that you've had issues with before, you're pretty certain that they've stolen from you before and they're back in the store, give us a call. We'll come out and we'll take a look. We'll address that before they leave the store. Okay? In order to make an apprehension, first of all, you have to watch them hide the merchandise. Okay? You have to see them remove it from the shelves. Okay? Sometimes they won't hide the merchandise. They'll just put it in a cart and do a push out later on. But you have to maintain visual contact with the person throughout while they're in the store, so that you know that they didn't put it down somewhere else. When you approach them with 2 or more people. This is just for your safety. We have had, well, not in Red Wing, but in the local area, we've had people who carry mace when they go on their shopping sprees, and they will mace an employee if they try to stop them. So always approach, the more people, the better. Okay? Explain what you saw and ask them to remove the item. I saw you put that perfume in your purse after you've gone past all the checkout places. Could you please remove that for me? A lot of times they will. If they start to get upset with you, or it feels like you're going to end up in an altercation, first of all, you should have already called the police so that the police are on the way. But don't get into a confrontation with them. And don't chase them down. We have one business in town that does that routinely. If somebody steals something, one of the employees will chase after them. We would rather you not did that. Okay? Call the police. The best thing you can do is be an eyewitness for us. Get a description. If you know the person or there's another employee that knows who the person, what direction did they go? What were they traveling in? If they were on foot, what direction did they go? Where'd they head to? So that's the best thing you can do, is let us know, let us deal with it, rather than chase them down. Because you never know what happens once you leave that area. So, if you're not certain that maybe they had an opportunity to put the merchandise down, and you can't be certain, let them go, okay? Or, like I said, call the police and we'll do what we do. We have a little bit more authority than you do as far as searching procedures, so let us handle that. You do not have a right to pat them down or go through their bags or anything, so let us do that, all right? Maintain your composure. Like I said earlier, don't get into a shouting match with them. Don't get into a shoving match with them. It's not worth it at that point. And then finally, trespass the person. You can trespass people from your business. I can help you with that. Let the officer know that responds that you'd like that person trespassed, and we'll get that taken care of. Trespass is good for 1 year. So if an incident happens, you don't want that person back again, let us know. We'll get the trespass taken care of. Credit and debit card fraud is probably the biggest business crime we see. Biggest thing that we see that happens is somebody will steal a purse or a wallet, and immediately they go to typically one of the big box stores, and they go on a shopping spree. And they'll do it right away. They'll grab the purse, and within 10 minutes they're shopping. And the reason they do this, of course, is because you haven't discovered it yet, and when you have, you can cancel that card. So as a business, some things you should watch out for. First of all, ask for an ID. I know that's not always easy, it's not always convenient. Ask for an ID and make sure the ID matches the card. I rarely use cash anymore. Most people don't anymore. More and more of us are using debit cards for everyday purchases. Ask for an ID. I rarely get asked for an ID. And I don't think, I don't think a lot of those people know who I am. It only takes a minute to look at an ID and compare the name to the credit card. Check the security features on the card. If there's a hologram on it, make sure that the hologram's working. We've seen more and more people who are stealing information, credit card information, and creating their own credit cards in your name, okay? Or they'll create an account in their name, a fraudulent account using your information. So some things you can look for. There should always be an imprint on the card of the first 4 digits. Okay, so you've got the first 4 digits that are raised. That same information should be on there. A lot of times they'll leave that out. Okay. Avoid manual entries. If a card doesn't work, usually there's a reason for it. Don't try to override it by entering the information manually. Another thing to watch out for is a person using 4 different cards. Oh, that one didn't work, let me try this one. That one didn't work, let me try this one. Sometimes that's legitimate, but if that happens, then for sure you want to check an ID and make sure the name matches the card. All right, because we've had people that have gone through the businesses and they've tried 3 or 4 different cards before they finally got one to work. And funny, it turns out that that's a stolen card. The other ones had already been canceled out. So, watch for multiple purchase of expensive items. How many people go out and buy 3 TVs and 2 laptop computers, in a store? If you're going to make those type of purchases, typically you're a business and you're ordering it online and having it delivered to your business. You're not going out to Walmart or Target and buying a bunch of TVs and laptop computers. So if you see that come across, that should raise a red flag. Call a credit card company if you have any doubts. If the card's not working and the customer is convinced that it's a problem with the card, call the credit card company. I know customers are waiting. You want to get them through, but that's the best way to resolve an issue with the card. I have gotten calls from my credit card company. They've canceled my card because I made a purchase, say in Stillwater or something like that, and they've canceled my card, and I had to call them to get the card reactivated. So those things do happen. Beware of telephone orders, people who call you up on the phone and want to order merchandise. Make sure you get some type of verification that you're talking to the person who owns that credit card. That's very difficult to do, but you should really do that. We don't see a lot of that where people make those types of telephone orders, but it does happen occasionally. And finally, watch out for credit card skimmers. Check your machines. Make sure that there aren't skimmers on them. Make sure that there's no devices hooked up that you weren't aware of before. And as a consumer, we find this mostly at gas stations. And you might recall this last winter we had a huge issue with where scammers were put on one of the devices at a gas station in town here. When you go to fill up your car, check for that security tape on the doors of the gas pumps. Make sure that tape isn't broken. And another thing you can do is sometimes the skimmers are actually placed on the front of the card reader. Grab that card reader and pull on it. If they put one on there, it'll pull right off. So those are a couple things you can check on. And that's how a lot of these thieves will determine whether a card is still good or not. They'll go to a gas station with your stolen credit card, and they'll run the card through the gas pump. If it approves it for gas, then they know that that card is still active. Cash handling, all right. Make sure that your shifts are all divided. Close out the tills at the beginning and end of shifts. Or keep a dedicated drawer for each employee. Otherwise, you'll have no idea. If you go through the whole day and you've got 4 cashiers using that same drawer, you have no idea where your issue is. All right. Perform frequent safe drops. It's the best thing you can do to prevent a robbery is have that money put away somewhere besides in the till. Beware of counterfeit bills. I passed out a thing on $20 bills. That's our most frequent bill that's forged, the $20 bill. 50s and 100s, you get a little suspicious if you're working at a till and somebody comes in with a $50 bill to pay for a $5 item. And people are more likely to check on that and make sure it's real. But $20 bills, people kind of just let those go. Quick change scams. I'm going to run a quick change scam here. And this does happen more than what you might imagine. We've had several quick change scam people come in through town and hit different businesses. And then they're usually gone. And then they'll come back 6 months later and they're here again. But it happens all over Red Wing and Twin Cities and everywhere else. So I'm going to go through this. I need somebody to act as a cashier. Any volunteers? So I want to buy this bottle of water. And this is what they'll usually do is buy a small item and use a large bill to pay for it. So I want to buy this bottle of water. It costs $1.
Okay.
How you doing today, sir?
Hey, good. How are you?
Good. I'd like a bottle of water, please.
Super, it's $10.
$1.
He's trying to scam you.
Yes. All right.
What would you like to change it? 5 and 5 ones or is 10 5?
Oh, you give me whatever you got there.
Okay. Yeah, we'll go with this.
Well,
Wait a second.
I need $19 back. I picked the wrong cashier, didn't I?
I said $10.
All right. All right. You know what? I could really use a 10.
Okay.
Okay. Can you give you back 5 and 5 ones, and then can you give me a 10?
That's only 9, though.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I'll tell you what. Here. There's 10, and there's 10. Why don't you just give me back my 20? I don't need all that small money.
And what about that?
I already paid for that. I'm giving you $20 back here.
Okay.
Give me my money.
No,
Okay, this is a 10. You owe me 10 for the 9, right?
Tim. No,
Yeah. So that's how it works. What happens, where it starts is, when I ask for $9 or ask for 10, he gives me the $10 back. Okay? Now, he says, well, you only gave me 9 for that. Well, then I give him the 9, or the extra $1 to give him 10, and the other 10, and I get my 20 back, and I've got $30. So the key here is what Steve did is he didn't give me any money. Make one transaction at a time. Okay? If he would have given me that 10 for the $9, and then I would have gone and given the 1 back and the 10, now I'm up $10 on him. Okay? The key is you do one transaction at a time, and it's difficult. These guys, first of all, don't feel bad if you've been scammed. These guys are professionals. They know when to hit, they know how to hit, and they know how to keep you busy. They'll come in at a busy time of the day when you've got a crowd, and they'll do it. Now, typically, they won't do it with a $20 bill. They'll do it with a $50 bill or a $100 bill. And that way, they can get more money out of you by running the scam. And they'll run it over and over and over again. Before you know it, you might be out 40 bucks. The other thing, put your, close up your tills. We have had people who will do a snatch and grab. They'll reach over they'll buy something small again, the drawer opens up, they'll reach over and they'll just grab money and run out. Okay? So close up those tills as quickly as you can. And try to perform your bank drops during business hours, during daylight hours. You don't want to be walking around downtown or to the cash deposit in the middle of the night. If you encounter something that seems suspicious, call the police right away. Okay? Call the police. We have no problem showing up just because something doesn't feel right. All right? Give us a call if something seems out of place. We'll come down. We'll just do, if you want us to just do a walkthrough, we'll do a walkthrough. That's usually enough to get somebody to leave or quit doing what they're doing. Watch for things like people who may be videotaping or photographing the layout of your store, especially where the high-priced merchandise is. Again, those back offices, where cameras are at, where back doors might be that aren't alarmed or normally monitored. People leaving items behind, filling up a cart, and then pushing it to the back of the store somewhere and just leaving it there. A lot of times they will stage items for theft later. They'll put it in a back door, by a back door, somebody will come in and grab it and run out. Okay? Bulky clothing again in the summer, backpacks, totes, those types of things. Again, attempting to access back rooms. And here they're not, what they're looking for is personal items left laying around, purses, wallets, things like that. People who come into the store 2 or 3 times a day and don't make purchases. That's suspicious. If they're not, I get it, they're pricing items occasionally, but usually they're, if you come in there, they're looking for a specific item and they'll ask you about it. But if they keep coming back and never buying anything, that's something you want to watch out for. And trust your instincts. If something doesn't seem right, call the police. I can't stress that enough. So many times we have had people who have said, I wish I would have called the police. Or they'll call me and they'll say, yesterday this happened. Well, we can't do much about what happened yesterday. If you are ever the victim of a robbery, the first thing is personal safety. Your own personal safety is the most important thing. It's more important than any of your merchandise. It's more important than losing your job. And I don't know of an employee or an employer that would fire you because you got robbed. I think you'd probably have a pretty good case against them if they did. Your personal safety is the most important thing. Comply with the robber's demands. Okay? You can try to stall them if you want by saying, I'm working on it, fumbling around, things like that. That's fine, but don't tell them, no, I'm not going to do that. You're going to have to shoot me. Okay? Comply with their demands. The best thing you can do is be a good witness. All right? And that's tough to do, especially if you've got a gun pointed in your face. All you see is that gun. Try to relax, try to stay calm, and get a good description of the person who's committing the robbery. Clothing, items under their clothing. If you can see a collar underneath a sweater, the color of that collar, things like that. A lot of these people will ditch their outer clothes once they leave, okay? Because they'll know the police are looking for somebody with a bright yellow North Face jacket on. Underneath, they'll have something else on. So if you can identify what that color of that clothing is on underneath, height, weight, specific items, scars or tattoos. There are a lot of 5'2" blonde-haired, blue-eyed males. Okay? But if you've got a 5'2" blonde-haired, blue-eyed male with a teardrop tattoo on his cheek, or a scar across his face, scuff marks on his hands, tattoos on his fingers, those types of things help us identify a specific person. If you can get a vehicle description and a direction of travel, a lot of times they'll park away and they'll run to their vehicle. So you may not be able to get a vehicle description immediately. But what direction did they go? And try to get a general description of the weapon that they used. The color, was it a revolver? You know, if you're familiar with guns, what type it is, how big it was. I mean, they're all going to look like they're this big. After the robbery, keep everybody on scene and lock the doors. Don't let any other customers or anybody else into the business. Obviously, call the police. Hopefully, you've done that already. Don't touch anything that the robber may have touched. The counter, the till, doorway, door handles. Don't touch anything that they may have touched. That may be evidence for us. And immediately write down everything that you remember about that person or about what happened. That way, your mind's going to be a blank. So write down everything that you can so that you've got it on paper. And have anybody else that may have seen anything do the same thing. I'm going to talk a little bit about alarm systems. Alarm systems are primarily a deterrent. Okay? Typically, they're there to deter a crime. They're not usually going to prevent a crime. There are several different types of alarm systems. The first one is a panic alarm, and that's something that's initiated by an employee. So something is going on, there's a robbery, you have an alarm that you can push, like a doorbell. It sends a signal to the alarm company notifies the police, and then the police respond. And it's generally taken care of by a service center off the property. Burglar and intrusion alarms are your typical ones where you set an alarm before you leave for the night, and they go off if the glass is messed with or the door is opened or things like that. Some are audible. Audible is good because it lets the person know that's breaking in, that an alarm's gone off. Some of them are silent. So the only notification is made to the police, and then the police respond. They are good. The intrusion alarms are good. They come in handy. They're not cheap, not always cheap. If they're monitored, you've got to pay a service fee monthly. So surveillance systems are primarily used for follow-up. Not a lot of businesses have the funds to have somebody just sit there and monitor a camera system throughout the day or night. So they're primarily used for follow-up after, say, a business has been broken into. We have found that with surveillance systems, you kind of get what you pay for. If you've got a cheap surveillance system, the quality of the video is not always the greatest. We might just see a gray figure moving through the building. We get a lot of crime alerts from the Twin Cities. we have a system where any police department can send out a crime alert saying we had somebody stealing items from Target in West St. Paul or whatever, and some of the video is really good. I mean, I could pick any of you out in a video. There's other where it's just a fuzzy blur, and you're like, what are we supposed to do with this, you know? So you kind of get what you pay for, especially as far as the cameras. If the video is stored on site, a lot of times if the people breaking in know what they're doing, they take the surveillance system with them, which leaves you with nothing as far as evidence. With technology these days, you can monitor some camera systems from your phone at home. And that's usually the best if you've got some kind of recording system that's off-site. You can do your own video camera. You can buy them out at Menards. You can buy surveillance systems out at Menards and set them up yourself and take care of it yourself, or you can get a vendor that does it for you. Again, what are your needs? What are your costs? It's not always feasible. And like I said before, check with an expert as far as what your options are and as far as what costs you're willing to incur. Some of the current trends we're seeing. The biggest one, like I said before, is credit card theft and cloning of credit cards. We have arrested people in the area who have vans with equipment in them where they can make up their own checks, print out their own checks, make their own credit cards, and they'll go steal. Did anybody remember the mail thefts that we had last year? Upper Burnside area was hit with a rash of mail thefts. People stole mail, looking for bills, looking for checks, and then they created their own. They were in the process of creating their own checks and credit cards based on the information they were stealing out of mail. Does anybody in here put bills out in their mailbox and put the little red flag up? I hope not. Don't do that. Don't do that. Take your mail, drop it off down at the post office. To me, I drive around and I see those flags up, and I'm like, if I was a thief, I'd hit those so hard. So if you're mailing bills and you got a check in there, drop it off down at the mailbox. Okay? Because now, if they steal you're paying a bill. If they steal it, first of all, they've got the account number of whatever account you're paying, and they've got your check numbers. You've got your bank account number and your account information. They may also have your driver's license number if you've got your driver's license printed on your checks. Skimmers, we had, like I said, we had a big deal with skimmers in town this last winter. It was just one business, and the havoc it created. I know I got hit by it. My card was compromised. A lot of other people's were as well. So skimmers are big around here. We haven't had anything since that case. Business burglary. We heard, you're all aware, the bakery got broken into within the past week. We don't see a lot of that. Hopefully it's not a trend. And then finally, check fraud and theft. Every day we're dealing with shoplifting, with credit card fraud and check fraud every day somewhere in town. Typically, it's one of the big box stores. But it happens all over the place. We used to have a check diversion program where if somebody wrote a bad check, they could work with this company to pay back the business for it. They've gotten out of that. And basically, they've gotten out of it because fewer and fewer people are writing checks. Does anybody have any other questions? All right. I would like to offer to you one of the things that I do is a business survey, a security survey. I can come out to your business and go over, walk through the business and come up with ideas of how you can make your business safer, less prone to theft and burglary. So it's free of charge. Give me a call and we'll set it up. All right, thank you for letting me come out today. I appreciate it.
Just want to add to a couple things that Officer Bohmbach said. The chamber had that site security survey done, and we thought we were so smart and knew where to hide our keys. And the first thing he did was walk in and say, "Tell me you didn't hide them in the refrigerator." And it was like, "That's exactly where we did them." He's like, "That's the first place criminals look, because they're always hungry." Who knew? So, have the site security done. I mean, here we thought all along, we're like, "Oh, they'll never find them in here." You know? So, just little things like that. He also helped us install, or told us to install one of those mirrors so that when people are, if you can picture the chamber, we have that long hallway, and then you're around the corner to the front. He's like, "If you put a mirror right here, you'll be able to see who's coming in that back door before they have to get all the way around." Because we have had an incident even at the chamber office. They came in and stole a wallet right out of our purses while all three of us were there. So it happens all the time, and that's also a common thing you guys are seeing. Yep. Where at work, people have their purses and such out, and they're having stuff there too. So he does a great job with it, and he'll come and do a report on your business and just give you some helpful tips. And it wasn't costly for the things that we needed to change and upgrade, so that would be a thought there. And as far as surveillance systems in town, that always comes up as a question. And help me out, Sound is one of our chamber members that does surveillance systems in town. That's Jeff Sigler and Jody Jones. Anybody else know? Anybody else?
They came around last year, 2 years ago, and Protection One came around, and we saw those signs all over the place.
Okay. And I don't know where they're out of. I don't know them at all, but if you were looking at installing something like that for your business, that could be it too. The other thing that we forgot to do, shame on me, is go around the table and introduce yourselves, because we're all about networking and getting to know each other and know where each other works. So Rakisha, we'll start with you and just go around and say where you're from.
Hi, my name is Rakisha Lavelle, and I work for Lawrence Realty. I'm a realtor. So nice to meet you guys.
I'm Margaret, Baptist Framing and Engraving, and we're down right across from Anna's Bakery, where they were wondering if we had surveillance systems. Yeah, dang it.
The more FJD mortgage services.
Oh, yeah, what's the stealth law?
We got Nesbitt, Reverend Confectionery, Emergency, Surgery, Dad.
Anything else?
I'm Lee Nesbitt, ditto on all the previous things.
And then Dad too. Yeah, there you go.
Joe Ole Miss.
And I just was thrilled, I know surveillance No questions from the group? I can't believe it. It's never quiet. All right, I knew it. Michaela